I'm really excited. We have Kayla Kallander here with us today. Kayla is someone that I connected with on LinkedIn, and I've been a big fan ever since. And I'll definitely allow Kayla to go down and tell us a little bit more about her story. But from my standpoint, Kayla, I'm a really big fan of what you do and how you carry yourself and present yourself professionally. And I'm a big fan of personal brand. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm always preaching it and talking about it. And I think there's a lot of opportunity, but not only that, being able to tell a story, relay who you are as a person, and also being vulnerable enough to put yourself out there, I think is really impressive and scary for a lot of people. So
Mhm.
I'm really excited to dive into your story a little bit. So first, I want to thank you for coming on the show,
Thank
and
you for having me.
I guess tell us a little bit about you as an intro.
Yeah, well, first, thank you foremost for having me, first and foremost for having me on. You never know what message will hit with different people, different ages, different career mindsets, everything. So I am Kayla Kallander and I live in Fargo, North Dakota. I always have to start with that because it's always such a, people are like, there's people that live there, really? Yes.
Yes.
And coming from a small town where I was an athlete for many years and moved to Fargo for college at NDSU and found that my career path has led me into mortgage lending where people want to buy a home, but a lot of times they're not going to have three, four, $500,000 in cash. So
Yeah.
I am the girl that kind of bridges that gap to allow people to be able to afford a home and start creating home ownership. So that has been something that I've progressed in, have created my brand around. And it's also very important that everybody knows that I am a rescue mom. I have four
Love
rescue
that.
pit bulls. And so I fully believe in rescue. And it's incredible to me how many people buy homes for the purpose of their pets. So
Yeah.
I love that that kind of all comes full circle. And I am a lover of fitness and the sun. Yes, I know I'm in Fargo, but we still get the sun. And so that's just a little bit about me.
Fair. I love that. That's really cool. So I have behind me an Eagles football. So I know Fargo and NDSU because of
When?
Carson Wentz.
Yep.
Yes, of course.
Is
So
that I met him. I used
nice.
to work with his dad, and we used to give out Carson Wentz jerseys at a bank I worked for because his dad worked there too.
Yeah.
Anyone that closed a loan, so I'm very familiar with Mr. Wentz.
There you go. There you go. So we are connected in a way. We
We
have
are.
we have
I
that
love that.
connection for sure.
I love
So what sport did you play?
I played volleyball and basketball. And basketball, I feel like everyone shoots hoops in their driveway, but I played all through high school, and then with volleyball, I played through high school, and then considered playing in college, but decided not to. And so I played intramurals up until about a year ago when I started to get. I don't know if this is old age, but I started to get plantar fasciitis, so I can't.
Yeah.
My feet would lock up. So still play it, but it's near and dear to your heart once you do play a sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how was that tough to decide whether to continue to play or to give it up? How was that decision after high school?
Gosh, no one's ever asked me that. Um,
Yes.
So I look at it this way. I worked at a bank when I was 15 years old, and I continued to work for banks even through today. So by exploring a career through college and being able to work through college, it got me where I'm at today. But I think there's part of me that always wondered what it would have been like to play in college because I see the relationships made and I see the drive and I see that that is the focus. So I
Mhm.
feel like it was a good decision, but I think, probably everyone would question, what could your life have been like? But I truly believe everything happens for a reason. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard, right? Like I think that's a really mature decision to make and a tough decision to make because
Mhm.
like you said, I think we all want to continue that dream, but
Mhm.
at some point you have to kind of weigh where you think your life is going to go. None of us know at
Yeah.
that age, right? That's the hard part of the
Mhm.
decision, but I think you made the right decision. But I commend you for just continuing to play, right? And I think that's always an option. It could be in college, it could be in a mural, just to keep the love of the game and continue to play
Mhm.
is a big step. So I
Mhm.
think it's important for people to know it doesn't have to necessarily end there, right?
No, for
Just
sure. It
keep,
doesn't.
yeah, keep plugging away. And then, so you started in banks and you said when you were 15. So how, what got you into that?
So I'm the youngest of six.
Yeah.
Matt, my dad would have us out in the fields
Yes.
in a small town called Walhalla. And so I did a lot of physical labor from the age of 5 until I was about 15. My
Mhm.
sisters, my brother, and I would a lot of physical labor, and I was just really sick of doing that. So I said, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go work at the local, it was like a Dairy Queen,
Yeah.
but weren't hiring. And I was so mad, and I'm like frustrated because they weren't hiring at the Dairy Queen and my friends are working there. But there was an announcement over the speakers at school saying that a local bank called Choice Financial was hiring, and they were looking for high school students. And I thought, okay, I can file papers. I didn't really know what I would be doing, but I'm like, I can do that. And so I went for the interview, and it was actually for a teller. Like when you walk into a bank
Yeah.
branch, okay, like we're talking handling cash, teller systems, actually handling client interaction right away at the age of 15. And it allowed me to grow up so fast, to learn
Yeah.
the power of, what is confidential and what you need to keep to yourself and how people's money works. And just because that guy walks in off the street and doesn't look like he's got much to offer, boy, you'd be surprised. So
Yeah.
I started very young at a small bank, and I worked there that same bank all through high school and all through college, as they had branches in Fargo where I went to college. So
Right.
it just progressed because they were hiring a high school student. So
Wow. Wow. I
mhm.
mean, what a chance. I mean, first of all, to take that job, right? I mean, I'm sure that
Yeah.
was that intimidating at your age to kind of take that job, or were you just ready to kind of get working, get out of the
You
hard
know,
labor of it?
I would say it was intimidating, but my mom has always said, Kayla, you always keep up with your siblings because I'm the youngest. And so I
Yeah.
think I had to grow up really fast. And I always just, you know, I wanted to keep up with my sister's friends. So I had to be socially more mature. So for me, it came naturally. And the people I was around at that bank, a lot of women in their
Right.
40s, 50s, 60s, and they just kind of like took me in. And it wasn't intimidating, but I think when I look back, when you're handling cash and you're handling,
Yeah.
people's, privacy and their biggest, transactions, yeah, that's a lot of pressure for a 15-year-old, but I feel like
Yeah.
I handled it okay.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, like you said, you're when you deal with money, right? Like that's people's closest, sometimes insecurities, passions. Like there's not a lot of wiggle room, I feel like, to make any mistakes with that. You're taking on a big
Mhm.
cause. Was
Yeah.
that your first exposure to the money, like how money worked? Did you learn those lessons on that job, the power of money
Mhm.
and how it worked and how people leveraged it and those lessons that we've learned growing up?
I think my dad always had like the check register and he'd write it out. My mom too, she'd write out checks. So I came from a family where my mom didn't work and my dad did.
Yeah.
So income family, 6 kids. And so I knew the power of like money in terms of how you should save and how you should be conservative. And you can't have everything just because, your friends have everything.
Right.
And I got a lot of hand-me-downs. So I understood like how the money worked, but the whole budgeting piece, it really allowed me to see how people budgeted their money. And then
Right.
through high school, you take like, business education class, but I would say that was a really great option for me to see exactly how money is actually handled and budgeted.
Yeah. I asked because I really try to push. Well, we work with student athletes a lot. And I think when we start to get the gears turning and we think we know where we want to go or what we want to try, I don't know if you could replace just putting yourself out there and going in the field and learning that way, right? And like to
Yeah.
put yourself in that path and then have to learn lessons that you will only learn in the field. We can read every book and we can look at every YouTube video, but I
Mhm.
commend you a ton just for going out there and doing it and learning it. And I can only imagine kind of the lessons that came with that. And then when did you transition to the mortgage lender? What was that process like and how did you get there?
Matt, I don't think people wake up that are in my job, in my career, in our industry, wake up and say, as a child or in high school, like, I want to go to college to be a mortgage lender, or I want to
Yeah,
go to college for sales. And when we look around our nation, there are so many salespeople, but you don't go to college for that. You
right.
really need to dive into podcasts and books, and your network is your net worth. And
Hmm.
so I was at this bank and I had had every position you could think of because I'd been there 11 years. So,
Yeah,
so I went from virtual banker to HSA advisor, personal banking. I was like the receptionist. I was a teller. Like I had all of these jobs from cash management, online banking. I can't even tell you that it finally got to the point where I'm like, what about loans?
yeah,
And so it was kind of baptism by fire because you just said it. You really don't know until you're in it. And it's one of those things where you kind of learn by being burned. You learn by
mm,
going through it and learning making mistakes and learning about that. But going into mortgage lending itself, I started as a mortgage lender. And it was so overwhelming, Matt. I had no training. I
Yeah.
had nothing. That I left the business for 2 months and was a
Wow.
head writer. And that scared the bejesus out of me because
Yeah.
that was ruthless. And I was being recruited by another company for mortgage, and I went and I was a processor. So they say to be the best loan officer, you go through like the steps from like closing, processing, junior lender, lender. So
Right.
I went and I was a processor and a lender, kind of like it was a hybrid role because I loved people. I could talk to people. I cared. I had a big heart. I knew if I didn't have the answer, I'd find it. So in that hybrid role, I just naturally within like 6 months became a lender, had a team, a support system around me. And that was back in about 2014, 2015 when I started that. And so I was an official full-on mortgage lender on my own in 2017.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that journey up through it. I mean, I think you got exposure to a
Yeah.
lot of it all the way up, which I don't know if you can duplicate that. And then for you, was real estate ever a passion of yours? Like, did you ever have that mindset also before you got into the whole, or was it just a part of the process of the banking world that got you to where you are
You
as
know,
you get to go?
I would say it was just the process. I
Yeah.
wasn't, interested in being a realtor. I wasn't interested in showing homes. I am terrible at decorating homes. So like wasn't like, oh, I love seeing houses, but it was the natural progression of working in finance.
Yeah.
Then as I continued on in my career, I realized there were mortgage brokers and there were retail and there was banks and there were all these different places that I could be and work, which it didn't have to be a bank, but I could explore other things. And having the flexibility, and you're almost like self-employed, but you're not. It kind of just
Yeah.
depends because it's your brand and your reputation that's getting people in the door. And
Right.
so, for me, it was the ability to kind of see what all was out there. But I would say I wasn't just interested in like the actual real estate. Now I
Yeah.
love looking at pretty houses, but it wasn't the driving factor.
Right. So in your opinion, after, the experience that you have and the years you put behind it, for somebody who maybe is thinking about it or maybe does have that idea of working with people and helping people, buy their homes, what are some of the qualities that you think have helped you get where you are and that you think are important for people who might be looking into your industry and your profession to become successful?
One of the things that I've noticed has allowed me to be successful is I'm not an order taker.
Mm,
Meaning, if you come to me and you say, I want to put 50% down, I'm not just going to say, okay. I'm going to say, well, have you thought about doing this or that, or investing over here, or paying off this debt? Or you say you want a 30-year, but I'm like, well, maybe we'll get a 25-year. Have you ever thought about that? So, one of the things that our industry has probably gotten used to is just being those order takers. Like,
yeah.
I will take people that come to me, I will do what they say and not educate them. So by educating and empowering your clients and your referral partners, you are helping them with their decisions because when people are confused, when your clients are confused, they don't make wise decisions
Yeah.
or comfortable ones at that. So I would say having the competence to educate people and empower them, not be an order taker, be strategic. Think about, the options. People like options, right? I mean, even when you go to a fast food place or a restaurant, you like options, right?
Yeah.
And I would say another factor that's helped me move forward is not being afraid to put myself out there. It's scary, like you said, to go on social media and speak and TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn. Like that's all like scary because you never know who's going to take something the wrong way or who's going to troll you. I get trolls all the time,
Yeah.
especially on TikTok.
Yeah.
However, those people don't have profile pictures or names. So,
Yeah.
if this is bothering one person, it's probably helping 100. So
Yeah.
I think just getting over that fact that you're not going to be for everyone, but that if one, two, three people can gain something from your educational post or your post showing who you are in here as a human,
Yeah.
I don't know you, but if I'm looking for a realtor or a lender, sometimes I'm looking for just someone I might know who I
Right.
get along with. And so I would say being authentic and not being afraid to expose yourself on social media is something that can really move the needle in my industry.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really don't want to pass over not being an order taker. For me, when I first started my journey as an entrepreneur and owning a fitness company, I'll be honest, I was a yes person. I was like, if you want to
Yeah.
lose 30 pounds, you can lose 30 pounds. If you, whatever you were looking for me, it
Mhm.
was about getting the sale. And I think it was just because I didn't know any different. I just
Yeah.
felt like it was competitive industry, which fitness
Mhm.
is extremely
Oh
competitive.
yeah.
Personal training is competitive. And that was the way for me to sell. And then what I appreciate about the fitness industry for sure is you can't fake it though, right? So you could tell somebody and promise somebody something, but if they're not losing the weight, they're gonna know. You have to
Mhm.
own up to that. And that is where I learned a lot. And I think what separated me, and it did take me a couple years, was putting people's goals in perspective, right?
Mhm.
Like there's a possibility we can achieve a lot, but
Mhm.
here's what I've seen in the past, and here's the reality of what to expect. And then let's hope we surpass that. Let's hope we beat that. Was that something that you had to learn to not be an order taker, or is that something that's natural to you?
I would say that it came with experience
Yeah.
because maybe I didn't know exactly that they could do that or they should do that. And I think I'm still learning because every situation is so different and unique. And the other day, Matt, I had a client and I looked at their credit report and I said, "Hey, what interest rate are you paying on that auto loan?" Because it looked like a really, the credit reports don't show the interest rates.
Hmm.
And I just asked, and I did the math myself, but I just wanted to ask them while I was doing it. 24%.
Wow.
24% they were paying. And so as we've seen inflation rise and people make decisions because they really just don't have the cash flow, now more than ever, our attitudes, our mindsets are shifting towards don't put the money down, pay off the debt that's 24% over 5 years. So 4 years ago we were saying, oh my gosh, take out as much as you can, put as much as you can, um,
Yeah.
you know, on the loan because it's so low. So I think you're constantly evolving and adapting to the market. But for me, I know that I cannot feel good or sleep at night if I'm not giving clients their options or best options at that. And it's a lot easier to just say, okay, we'll do that. But yeah, it's going to take 10 extra minutes with that client to explain, but it's worth it and they're going to appreciate it.
Yeah. I want anyone listening to really take that to heart. I think it's a fear coming in when you first get started on being able to
Mhm.
do that. That's definitely something skilled. I mean, that's not something that everybody comes in with. And I don't know if everyone actually learns that. And I do think being honest in business separates a lot of people. And
Mhm.
if you reverse roles and you put yourself as a consumer, we can often see through a lot of sales pitches,
Oh,
and when we hear it a lot, right? And
absolutely.
the hard part with being an entrepreneur is trying to separate yourself but doing it authentically.
Mhm.
And I just always found, rest assured, like, since I've been doing it, is just being honest, transparent. And that doesn't always mean that it's going to work, right?
Mhm.
But I think
Mhm.
it's a lot easier to live with yourself if you maybe you don't get that new lead, that different lead, or you don't sign that lead. I think it's easier to deal with that than
Oh, for sure.
not being able to fulfill the promises that you
Oh,
can.
I agree. And I think you have to get over in sales or whatever job you have is you have to get over rejection and you have to get over if you are being honest and upfront and it's not going to get the deal. I had a girlfriend who's a lender message me the other day and she said, that deal I lost, I just got a message that they're not closing on time. And I'm like, yeah, like that's what happens when, you're searching for the cheapest. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, she could sleep at night because she was honest. But I think if people have this mindset set of some will, some won't, someone's waiting.
Yes.
Like move on, stop dwelling. And I think having that mindset is you're not going to win them all, and you don't need to win them all.
Right.
The right ones.
Right. Absolutely. So do me a favor. So simple it down. What does a mortgage lender do? What is your day to
Question.
day?
Oh, my day to day. A lot of emails, a lot of texts, a lot of calls. A day in a mortgage lender's life should be, I'll tell you what it should be and it could be, and maybe
Yeah.
my day is, but it's a lot of conversation. So I don't just send someone a link and say, here, apply. There
Right.
might be lenders that do that, like, hey, go fill out this application. I have a consult with my client. So let's say, Matt, you wanted to buy a house. I'd say, let's hop on a 20-minute Zoom.
Hmm.
And we talk about your short and long-term goals. And we talk about, what you're looking for and why, your fears, your hopes, your dreams. The application is going to take care of your date of birth and social. Like that, you can handle that on your own.
Right.
I have those calls because prescription without diagnosis is malpractice.
Yeah.
So if you're not telling me what your goals are, if you're not telling me that you want a 2,000 a month payment, why am I approving you for 4,000? So
Right.
that's the purpose of those calls, right? I want to get to know my clients. And I want to know if they've got dogs and cats and kids and all those things, because
Yeah.
all important when it comes to making decisions. So I typically have a lot of calls like that. When I get applications, we're going through the application, my team and I, to get people approved. So we're going through your debt, your income. We're ordering verifications, which means it's simply just a form we send your employer that they
Right.
fill out. We're going through income, depending if you've got rental properties and businesses. We're doing all of that. So we're approving people. So we're meeting, we're approving, and then people are shopping. They're looking for homes and they want to know what the payments are and what their cash at close is. So we're running that. And then we get people in contract. So hey, I found a house and we got an accepted offer. So
Right.
then we're having conversations of what's next, and okay, now we need this. And then it's more so just maintaining those customers, making sure our whole team takes them from start to finish to close. I attend my closings. So if you bought a house and you were going to sign on the dotted line today, Matt, I would be at your closing with usually a bottle of champagne and
Nice.
something customized to you, and and then everything else in between. So from servicing or questions, or dealing with clients that just have general questions. I think that's the bulk of it. It's a lot of customer contact, a lot of
Yeah.
talking, and a lot of nurturing and checking in and making sure people are feeling good, and that you're communicating.
Yeah. That sounds like it's a lot of being able to connect to people,
Yeah, for
and being
sure.
able to gain the trust of people. How
Mhm.
it, how was that process? Is that well, let me say this. I would say, I mean, buying a home is a big thing, and I know it's exciting, but I also know the process could be long.
Mhm.
There could be ups and downs, and a lot of emotion goes into it.
Mhm.
How much of that is on you, and how do you deal with that? How do you balance that?
There's two things I want to talk about when you say that. The first is that people will just shop interest rates. They'll
Hmm.
just shop rates, right? And they'll go to online and find an online lender, and then they won't take the time to talk to someone like me. And
Yeah.
so you're up against just what they're seeing for a rate, or people just shop that. I don't When I pick, what kind of vehicle I want to drive, or what kind of laundry detergent I want, or toothpaste, or whatever it may be, I'm usually not looking at just the price. I'm trying to figure out if it works for me or my family. And I think a lot of consumers just here shop the rate, but there's so
Yeah.
much more that goes into it: the education, your mortgage insurance, your cash at close fees, and so I think a lot of people are just shopping. And so my goal is to educate the consumer to have conversations. Those
Right.
are important. The second piece is, I think, as someone like me, it's my reputation, right? I'm Kayla Kallander, Team Calendar.
Mm.
But there are so many people, Matt, behind me, from
Yeah.
partners to processors to underwriters to appraisers to insurance to realtors to sellers agents to you name it. And so if anything goes wrong, we take the heat. We really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we also get all the glory. We get you closed on time. We're getting you your dream home. So it's a lot of balance of emotion as a lender, because you have to eat the frog no matter
Right.
if it's your fault or not. If I have someone that had an error in my closing department, let's say, someone that handles like the final numbers,
Yeah.
it's wrong. The client doesn't talk to the closer, the client talks to me. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you really need to know there's a lot of hands in the pot, and you need to just make sure everyone isn't just meeting your expectations, but meeting your standards. And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. That's awesome. I can relate to that, and I relate a lot to, and you being an athlete too, and that's just the way that my brain goes. I mean, you hear that a lot. If you lose, you take all the heat, and if you win, you get
Mhm,
all the glory. And it's those ups and downs that I think
mhm,
takes a lot of practice to balance that out. And
mhm.
I'm sure there has to be a lot of passion behind it, right? You have to, in my opinion,
Yeah.
love what you do and at least enjoy what you do. But to be able to deal with people, from my experience, takes a special practice. It takes a special patience, and to have a team behind you, right?
Mhm,
Like that whole aspect of making sure things are running correctly, because a big part of growing is being able to do what you're really good at, and then have the other parts of the team continue to make sure the process goes smoothly, which
mhm,
is oftentimes hard, right? That's a lot of
mhm.
times is a lot of the challenge, but that's that's a really good point on there's so many factors to go into it, and being willing to be the face of it takes on a
Mhm.
big responsibility, and a lot comes with that. And you just have to kind of be ready for the ups
You
and downs
do.
of that, you know,
You
which
do. Mhm.
it's tough. And then so putting yourself out there, was
Mhm.
that was that new for you when you started? Was that something different, or did you always kind of have that? Was that hard?
You know, yes and no. I think that again, being the youngest, you're trying to, get attention, stand out, be noticed.
Yeah.
I have sisters that are 3 years older than me that are twins. They had each other, and it was little Kayla, like trying to keep up. And
Yeah.
so I think it's in my blood to, not be afraid of that, to try to like keep up. However, I think that when it comes to video and the internet, I mean, I'm not just getting up on stage and talking quick. Like, this is forever. Anybody in the world
Yeah.
can see this. So I think there's this whole like, oh gosh, what are people going to think? But the people that I end up following and liking and really like leaning into are the people that are being like, I don't care. Here's who I am. Um,
Yeah.
do you listen to Andy Frisella on
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I bring anyone that
Yeah.
knows Andy, he's vulgar and he
Yeah.
doesn't care. And I kind of like that because it shows that you're passionate and you care. I'm not saying to get on social media and swear and do that,
Right,
but
right.
to just know that, like, don't be afraid because the right tribe will find you. The right
Exactly.
people will support you. So,
Yeah, I love putting it that way. I think it does a lot of the initial work. Like you
mhm.
said earlier, someone's going to reach out to you because they feel like they know you,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And it's kind of the icebreaker, I guess is a way you could look at it.
Hmm.
Like I feel like if I'm gonna reach out to Kayla, I know that she likes to rescue dogs. I know that this has been some of her advice. I can relate to something that she said before, which maybe I didn't know or I want to know more about. And if you don't ever put it out there, I feel like that
Yeah.
won't ever happen, right?
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
what would be your recommendation? Let's say for a younger you or someone who's just finishing college and they know the next step is to find what they want to do in life. Do you feel like there should be some type of personal brand building going on for if you're in college, or how early do you think you should start that personal branding?
I think as early as possible
Hmm.
because your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
So I don't care if you're 10 or 12 or 50. I think that your brand is just who you are. It's not a special logo. It's not colors of the logo. It's who you are.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of individuals say, well, I don't know what to post on social media, or I don't want to get on here and talk about, my job. You don't have to. And we say authentic so loosely, but being authentic just means being yourself or showing the world who you are and what you're doing. So I always tell people, have pillars. Have pillars and talk about those pillars on social or in rooms with people. And that's,
Yeah.
mine is my dogs, my lake home, mortgage. Like it could be all those things. Or Fargo weather. Apparently that just people love to talk about that. That's so crazy. But
Yeah.
be yourself because having a brand can start so young. Look at these kids that go on Shark Tank. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like they have a brand. So I would 1,000% say it's never ever too soon to start having a brand. And it doesn't mean having a website or a logo. It just means creating who you are and being authentic in yourself and being consistent with that cadence of who you are.
Yeah. You touched on it a little bit earlier, and I would love to hear how you handle it, but putting things out there, it's not going to be for everybody. And
Mhm.
I know a lot of times I'm guilty of it. I overthink of what other people are going to think about what I put out there.
Yeah.
And it's inevitable that not everyone's going to love it. And you're probably going to hear it because it's easy to sit behind a phone screen or a computer screen and someone to type something and leave a comment. And I know for athletes that we work with, we do see that a lot because they're accessible
Yeah.
and people could say and tell them whatever they want and don't have any repercussions of that. How do
Hmm.
you handle that as someone who puts herself out there and is willing to let other people in to an extent? How do you handle the other side of it?
Yeah, I don't think anyone can prepare you for it. I don't think anyone can tell you like, hey, when you get hate or someone talking about the way you look, like
Mhm.
I mean, that's what I get is a lot of haters there, and that's okay. But when they start to come at you personally or professionally, either way, like you don't know what you're talking about with interest rates, let's say, or
Yeah.
I get the, oh gosh, like, could her hair be any blonder? I don't know,
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
You're going to take it personally and it's going to hurt. But when you stop and think about how much that person that's commenting is probably hurting inside, if that's what they're doing, if they've got the time and energy to be commenting on your post about that,
Yeah.
they clearly are not going to be someone you take advice from. And
Right.
I would encourage people to recognize the people that you do touch and impact and affect, the people that you do connect with. Think about them, because for every one person that's hating, you're going to have 100 people that are loving what you do. And
Right.
no matter what you do in life, social media is just more visible for people to see. So it hurts more if others see it. But at the end of the day, you just have to realize that, again, some will, some won't. So
Yeah.
what?
I love
And
that.
that's just what you got to do.
I love that. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here.
Uh,
I always like to ask this question because I do feel like for people want to be entrepreneurs or business owners, there's so many resources out there that will show you how great it can be and the freedom and the time freedom and financial freedom, all the goals that we strive for to hit. But there's a whole nother other side to being an entrepreneur. There's a lot of late nights. There's a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of things that I believe that I know personally I've had to learn how to balance because they don't sometimes they go away and you have really good stretches and business is good and but they always seem to come back. And for me, I can remember one of the toughest times I lost a couple employees at the same time that were really important to me that I didn't see coming. And it was hard and it flipped everything upside down. And I had to learn a different side of my business, which looking back now, that was years ago, but I'm so grateful for it because of what I learned through it. But if you
mhm,
ask me in the moment,
mm.
I wasn't sure if we were going to make it out of there. But can you recall anything entrepreneur wise where you felt like, wow, this is tough. I don't know where this is going to go. And that was just really challenging for you to get through that you've learned a lesson from?
Yeah, I think that, working in an industry where, there's a lot of people that are 100% commission, meaning
Mhm.
that you can work and work and work and you don't get paid. Like, I don't get paid unless a loan closes.
Right.
So I could be doing tons of work and I don't get paid. I think that some of the toughest parts that I've experienced are the balance of life. So the balance of personal and business.
Yeah.
Um, I've noticed, and this is something I'm still going through and learning. It's a challenge and it changes every day. But as I've grown my mortgage business and I grow my social media, there's only one Kayla. And so I've needed to learn to delegate to elevate. I
Yeah.
need to hand things off in order to do the things that I'm really good at and to continue to do. So I think that I've struggled with that, finding the right people that are backing me,
Hmm.
because it's not their name on the line. So
Yeah.
there's this, sometimes people don't really care as much, but
Yeah.
you can find those people that care deeply about the client, even if it's not their name on the line. They exist, they really do. But finding people that have that same, again, I'll say it, the expectations, but what are our standards? What is the team calendar standard? Because when you don't have everybody on the same page, it's like air traffic control. You're checking in with people. Did you do this? And then you're micromanaging. So I would say finding people that are on that same wavelength has been a struggle for me in the past.
Hmm.
But then finding those good people, it makes all the difference. And I find that when that's, working well, then I have more time in my personal life because I know things are taken care of. You know what I mean? So there's more
Yeah.
time to spend with my family, my dogs, to take a break, to take a vacation maybe. So I really think that if you can find the balance and the help and the people in your career, that it will flow over to you personally because you
Yeah.
cannot do it all. And that's what I've had challenges with.
Yeah. 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 Thank you for saying that. Actually, I think that's harder than, I mean, I accounted for. I always knew that was a part of excelling in business and growing was
Yeah.
having a team and being able to delegate, but it was so hard once it
Mhm.
was time to get there. Well, actually, I probably waited too long, honestly. I
Mhm.
didn't want to give up certain roles
Mhm.
and I didn't believe that someone could do it as well as I did and which is selfish, right? Which took me to look in the mirror and luckily the team I have is great and they're better at doing it than I was. And it just took me to let them do that. And I think that's a skill that a lot of us have that we may not know. If you've ever been on a team or if you've ever been a part of a club or intramurals and you've had to work together with people and someone does something really well that helps the team, it's the same thing in the business world. It's
Mhm.
just trusting them. It's being on the same page and having those systems in place, right? Like any good team does. You have good systems in place, and then everyone's able to follow them. And
Mhm.
once you kind of get that, that's tough, but not everyone gets that. And that's a really big jump to make, I think.
Mhm.
Um,
It
and
is.
that's, I commend you for that. I think that we should point that out more often, that when you get into it, even the real world, even if it's not necessarily entrepreneurship, the art of practicing working with other people, I mean, it can only help, right? It can only get you a little
Oh,
further.
absolutely.
Where do you see yourself in, let's say, the
Mhm.
next 5 to 10 years? What is Kayla's goals in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'm looking at a year ahead.
Nice. All right, good. We'll
So,
start there. Let's start there.
life is funny. I thought, yeah, mortgage, 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 mortgage. That's what I'll do till I'm dead. But when you are in my industry, the clock starts over January 1st. Okay,
Mhm.
you had a great year. Now, okay, another year. My goal, I think, would be even looking out a couple years to have a team that's dedicated to the same things that I am, the same have the same mentality of education, not being an order taker, over communicate, be so wildly excited about the pursuit of a happy client,
Yeah.
like to create a team. But also, as I've gotten to meet people and I've put myself out there online, I'm finding there's a lot of individuals that need help with their brand, their career, their social media, and even some sales tactics, some
Mhm.
scripting, some ideas. So as I'm growing I grow social, which grows my mortgage, but then it also grows this need of wanting to help people in another way. So
Yeah.
I don't know what that will look like, but I really have found that pouring into people and helping others, aside from mortgage, but also just one on one and with brand and social and everything I talked about, that really fills my cup. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of at this point where I'm like, where do I go from here? What could I do to not just help others, but like fill my cup and feel really good about it too?
Yeah. And that's a testament to you, I feel like. I mean, to be good at what you do and then to be willing to take on new challenges, I think
Mhm.
that's a really cool place to be. Maybe a little bit scary, I don't know,
Yeah.
trying new things, but I think just being willing to go
Mhm.
for it and do
Yeah.
things you enjoy, and as you say, fill your cup and be okay with that and continue to go. I really commend you for that, because
Thank you.
I feel like we don't know what we don't know. And
Mhm.
being willing to network and being willing to take time to meet people and talk to people will continue to open your world. That's
Mhm.
something that I had to learn. I thought I had it all figured out, and that
Mhm.
changed in a moment for me. And now one of my strongest passions is just networking with people. It's just reaching out to people with you and hoping, we could have a talk and learning
Mhm.
from you. And oftentimes I can over talk and do it for too long, but I enjoy it. And I feel like that's
Yeah.
what fulfills me. And that's where I learn the most. Um,
I
I'm going to
love that.
ask you the age old question. Let's
Mhm.
say there's an 18-year-old listening to this right now, and they're afraid and they're ready to get out there, but they're a little bit nervous. They don't know what the world's going to be like, or the world scares them. What
Mhm.
would be Kayla's advice, or something that you would recommend to a room full of teenagers who are ready to go take on the world? What helps you get through, and what would you recommend? What would be the piece of advice that you felt like you would tell yourself at a younger age?
I don't think that anyone really has it figured out. I don't think that everybody just wakes up and knows they want to do this or that. And life has a funny way of throwing you curveballs and hurdles that you never knew. I would say my piece of advice that I would share would be to pour into engaging with others and networking.
Mhm.
You never know, the whole comment of it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's not to say that you shouldn't be educated and be able to articulate and speak or have, a knowledge of your industry, but you never know if you're just one connection away from something incredible.
Yeah.
And I wrote a chapter for a book called Rethink Everything You Know About Being a Next Gen Loan Officer. It's actually
Oh, yeah. Give that a shout out.
shameless plug, but this is not just for loan officers. It is
Nice.
anybody that's really in sales, I would say. But I bring that up because in this chapter, I talk about, have you ever heard of the 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon?
No.
It's like a game that was famous like a while ago when you'd pick one actor or actress and connect them to Kevin Bacon in 6 actors or less
Yeah.
because it's everywhere. Well, I
Yeah.
think about life like that. I think about, Matt, you and I connect.
Yeah.
If you and I connect, and then that leads me to meeting someone else, and that leads me to this. You never know how one connection could lead to you to millions of people or
Yeah.
opportunities or collaborations. And so I would say really dive into relationships, your
Yeah.
network, and just meet people, go for coffee. You just never know. And I feel like that's the one thing that's really helped catapult me into just exploring everything in life and creating new relationships like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. That's probably the best advice that I hope to hear, and I love to hear what people's advice is. But I love that because anyone can do that, right?
Mhm.
Anyone can just go and meet somebody new. There's no skill behind it. It's just saying hello sometimes. Our coach used to make us do um this. He would have us talk to somebody that we see every day, but that we never spoke to. So a lot of times for us at college, it would be a security guard or the front desk operator or someone in the cafeteria. You see them every single day, but you never really actually talk to them.
Mhm.
And
I like that.
yeah, and it was really really eye opening because what it does, and you kind of said it. Everyone's just trying to figure out, and everyone's doing what they have to do, and everyone, as simple as it sounds, is just a human being, right? We all have our problems, and I can say it, and I could say it now. When I was younger, I don't know if I cared enough about other people. I really don't. Looking back at it, I don't know if I thought enough about what other people were going through because I had my own problems. I had to
Yeah.
be here, and I had to do this, and I just need you to get me what I need and keep it moving. So to take the moment just to talk to somebody else helps and puts it in perspective on what everybody's going through, and then what you can learn from that. But I
Mhm.
love I love the book. I'm gonna put that in the bio for sure for anyone who wants a chance to read it and get it. And then Kayla, I know we're on time here. What would be the best way for anyone who's listening and is connected to you through this episode to reach out and connect to you? What would be the best part of networking? Would it be LinkedIn, social media? What would be the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I always tell people Google me, Kayla Kallander, okay, but
I like
I'm
that.
usually most active on LinkedIn and probably Instagram, Kayla Kallander Mortgage. But that's where you're going to really see my day-to-day life is in my stories on Instagram. You're going to find that there's lots of connections that we'll probably all have on LinkedIn. I am
Yeah.
on TikTok as Kayla Kallander, but I always tell people just Google me, but spell it with the K, not a C, Kayla
Yes. I
Kallander.
asked. Okay, I can't tell you how much. I mean, I really enjoyed this. I could have gone another hour. But the good thing is now we have the connection. And I hope this isn't the
I
last time that
do.
we talk.
Oh, it
And
won't be. I know it won't. So,
yeah. And your story, I'm a huge fan. I'm even a bigger fan now.
oh,
I'm gonna support you all the way through, but I love what you're doing. Thank you for the information that you gave me. I've learned a lot from you, and I'm sure anyone listening to this will learn a lot. And I recommend everyone go out and follow Kayla and treat yourself to some of her content. But thank you so much for your time.
thank you. And anyone listening, I'm here to help. Don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, you.